14th now. I'm Jessica Denson, and this is Lights On. This is a special New Year's Eve edition of Lights On to give you the vital details to this historic, peaceful march that an extraordinary group of fierce and peaceful defenders for democracy has put together in record time. Literally, less than 2 weeks ago, I put a call out on this show to possibly organize a peaceful demonstration in Washington, D.C. to demand that Congress uphold their oaths and object to the certification of a man who is constitutionally barred from holding the presidency under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the response was incredible. This group of grassroots organizers, patriots, people who are not willing to live through this moment in history and watch our democracy die, knowing that we could have done something about it and that our elected leaders have an obligation, a duty under their oaths to do something about it, came together, and we have organized this historic march at the Capitol, near the grounds of the Capitol. I'm going to give you those details just very shortly. On January 3rd to 5th. We are going to be the polar opposite. So there will be no gaslighting, no false comparisons between us and the events 4 years ago. In fact, the reason why it is incumbent upon us to peacefully stand for our country in this critical moment when literally everything is on the line is because of the diametric opposite behavior stoked by an insurrectionist leader 4 years ago. So we will be peacefully showing ourselves near the Capitol on January 3rd to 5th. If you haven't already done it, please, right now, go to nowmarch.org. Nowmarch.org. That is the site for the 14th Now peaceful demonstration. If you go to the Plan Your Trip tab, we have all the details updated as of now that I'm going to share with you today. We have a few very important requests of you. One is that if you could please click on the link in that website to RSVP. If you plan on joining us on the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th, we hope all 3 days. If you could please click on the link to RSVP and fill out that Google form. We really need you to do that to get the best sense of how many people will be showing up. So even if you've already subscribed, even if you've already joined the movement, even if we've already been in contact with you, if you can please go once again to nowmarch.org, go to the Plan Your Trip page and click on the link to RSVP and let us know which days you will be joining us. It's very important, as I said, to have that. Before I go into more details, this is going to be a short show today, mostly to wish you a happy new year and to ring in the new year on the right note. I mean, can you imagine a better resolution than not letting democracy die on our watch? I don't think I can, but I want to share with you a quote from Jimmy Carter, the beautiful Jimmy Carter, who is being memorialized this week by so many of our leaders, so many people speaking with such clarity about the character of this man, especially in contrast to the man who is illegally set to assume the presidency. But this is what Jimmy Carter said at one time, quote, "The gap between our citizens and our government has never been so wide. The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers, clear leadership, not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual." And that's what 14th Now aims to do more than anything, is to put the onus on these lawmakers to let them know we cannot have false claims that, as I'm going to share with you in a minute, that somehow peacefully objecting to the votes of an insurrectionist is not a peaceful transfer of power. We can't have false claims like that. We can't have politics as usual, where the Profiles in Courage book is this tiny because so many of our elected leaders are unwilling and afraid to do what they need to do when the moment calls. We can't have that. We have enough leaders who have gone out there and given amazing speeches and been so clear about their adherence to the rule of law and our Constitution. We have enough of them that it's not going to pass for them to stand down in this moment, to not peacefully and lawfully, as is their obligation, object to the certification of Donald Trump under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It is their constitutional duty. So we are looking for honest answers, not easy answers, as the beautiful Jimmy Carter once said. And we're not naive about this. We don't think it's going to be easy, but it is the hard work that is the most necessary work. It's what Kamala Harris said so many times on that campaign trail. Hard work is good work. And there has never been a more dire need for hard work than right now. So we need every single lawmaker to stand up and honor their oath. We are not going to let them forget about this or think that their legacy will not be tied to the decision they make in this moment. And that is what this peaceful, historic demonstration aims to do. And we can. Don't let anybody tell you. If you're new to this program, I will give you a little bit of a filler in this short episode today. But if you're not new, you know that you have been getting the best education from the best constitutional scholars on this program as to why Donald Trump is, in fact, still, after the ruling in SCOTUS v. Anderson, an adjudicated insurrectionist, why Congress absolutely, in spite of that judicial train wreck of a ruling, Congress absolutely has the power, as this op-ed up on the screen says, to block Trump from taking office. And it would take a 2/3 vote of both houses, a near impossible threshold, to remove the disability that is currently ascribed to him. He is currently a disqualified insurrectionist. That does not change unless a 2/3 vote of both houses removes that. On the other hand, it only takes 20%, 1/5 of both bodies, which can easily be comprised by Democratic lawmakers, to raise an objection to the Donald Trump's electoral votes, and only a majority, a simple majority of both houses, which yes, would require the joining of some conscientious Republicans to this effort, but it would only take a majority vote of both houses to sustain an objection raised by 1/5 of both houses. And if that objection were sustained to all of his electoral votes, those electoral votes would not be counted, as this op-ed piece in The Hill last week from Evan Davis and David Schulte describes. At that point, Kamala Harris would be elected because the majority of the votes would be for her. So I really don't have any patience for people telling you what an unlikely scenario this is, or how it's magical, whimsical thinking. People, by the way, who make a living out of clickbait YouTube videos and have predicted over the past several years so many times wrong things to you from their YouTube studio, just telling you over and over again that they know what's going to happen when they've been wrong so many times. And those are the same people today that are trying to tell you they know what is going to happen and what is possible or not. So don't listen to the naysayers. I'm not telling you what is going to happen. I'm telling you what is possible, what is legally required, and what the consequences will be if the lawmakers in this moment do not obey their oaths, do not uphold the Constitution. All of the things that you're hearing in mainstream media about the dire effects, the dire consequences of a Trump administration, that responsibility, that all of those effects will be tied to the lawmakers who had the tools, the legal tools, the peaceful tools, the necessary founding document right in front of them in black letter to abide by, and did not, if they do not. So we are going to exert the maximum amount of peaceful, patriotic pressure on these lawmakers to do what's right. And they absolutely can, and they absolutely should. So 14th Now is at nowmarch.org. Before I go on, I have another really, really important announcement. We have added a donate button to the website. This is a completely grassroots movement, as I mentioned. There is no special organization, no special resources here, and we are putting on an extraordinary event for you with some wonderful, esteemed speakers with incredible personal connections to what has transpired on January 6, 2021, to academics, other influencers who can really speak to the gravity of this moment. And in order to do that, we have some extraordinary expenses that we need help with. So please, please, if you are able, if you're not able to join us, and I hope, number one, that you're able to join us, but if for any reason you're not and you want to support this, click on that donate button on nowmarch.org. Click on the donate button on nowmarch.org. We desperately, I don't like using that word, but we really need it. It's not cheap to put on an event like this. And in the event that you want to donate services, production services, any kind of logistical support services in Washington, D.C. on the 3rd to the 5th, please let us know in the note box on donor box. Even if you want to just make a tiny donation, but you have the ability to contribute services, you can do that and leave us a note so that we can contact you and get in touch for that. That would be absolutely amazing. We are all doing this, obviously, just as concerned citizens who can't stand for doing nothing right now and are stepping forward to make this happen. So your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. Nowmarch.org, click on the donate button. When you're done, go over to the Plan Your Trip page, click on the RSVP page on the Google form so we can get as accurate a count as we possibly can. So let me go to the details. I know a lot of you have been asking for details, and please understand, to the extent there's any criticism out there of the delay, we have literally put this together in a week and a half. And if you know of my particular efforts, you know that over the past month, I have been focused on trying to get all of my viewers and audience to sign petitions, to call your Congress members, to do all of these things without having to actually demonstrate in DC. And I realized, in spite of those continuous efforts and headwinds from the unfortunate, tragic headwinds of others in the so-called pro-democracy space who were putting out counter programming. By the way, a lot of them are changing their tide, turning their tide on this without crediting Jessica Denson at Lights On. It's okay, you guys know. Been dealing with white men who don't want to credit my work for many years now, but you guys have been amazing in pointing that out. But in spite of those headwinds, I was trying to push out the message to just lobby Congress for weeks, good month after the election. And when I realized that there was no movement there, that's when, I've been constantly thinking, okay, what's the next step? What do we need to do now? And that's when I thought, okay, if it's going to happen, it has to happen really right now. And that's when I put out that call and joined forces just a week and a half ago. So understand that we have been working on an extremely compressed timeline with a few people that have some organizational background, but a lot of us are completely new to this, and it has just been an extraordinary team. We have joined forces with one march that was already somewhat planned, and so we've combined our resources and are putting this together in record time. So it's really I'm so grateful to the team. I'm sure they're all watching right now, and each one of you, who you are. I said it before and I'll say it again. I love you guys immensely, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. So here are the details that we can announce today. On January 3rd, which is also, we're calling January 3rd our day of action, because it's the day that the new Congress will be sworn in. New Congress will be sworn in on January 3rd at noon. So we are going to have a combination of an event and some specific instructions for you to be able to lobby your Congress people on January 3rd, which we will be releasing shortly. But the place that we are going to meet on January 3rd is Area 5. Area 5. Now, Area 5 is just southwest of Union Station, just to the northeast corner of the Capitol. It's right in front of, all of the, right in front of MSNBC, right down the street from CNN, where I worked as an intern in college. It's right there. Excellent, excellent location. So that's where we're going to convene on January 3rd at 11 a.m. We're going to plan on being there from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. on January 3rd. Area 5, right outside the U.S. Capitol. If you go to nowmarch.org, plan your trip page, there's a link to the map so you can see exactly where that is. We will have speakers on January 3rd to speak to you that day. I do want to tell you it's going to be very, very cold in in Washington, D.C., please dress warmly. As I was on the Jack Hopkins podcast yesterday, and he said, you basically need a lot of warm bodies in D.C. I said, yes, a lot of warm, peaceful bodies, as many as we can possibly have in one place. Warm, peaceful bodies to gather together, put our marker down in history, do what we can and what should be done absolutely to save our democracy now and to stop this illegal presidency from steamrolling what generations have fought and sacrificed for. So that's the location for January 3rd. Now, January 4th and 5th, we are going to start out. Let's start with January 4th. We're going to start out at 10 a.m. at an excellent location. I've been in this location protesting against the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I have been there for other peaceful demonstrations. It's absolutely an excellent location in front of the Supreme Court, between the Supreme Court at the Capitol at 1 First Street Northeast at 10 a.m. So we're all going to gather there on January 4th at 10 a.m. Now, we plan to march to a nearby location at 1 p.m. where we already have another excellent lineup of speakers planned for you. But for right now, we need to make sure that you join us, gather with us peacefully with signs. There's also sign suggestions on the website. Please, if you're able, bring signs. If you're traveling from a far distance, don't worry about it. We'll have signs for you. If we'll have some extra signs for people who don't have their own. But to the extent that you can bring your own signs, do that. Bring them to the Supreme Court, the front of the Supreme Court, between the Supreme Court and the Capitol on January 4th at 10 a.m. We will be there for several hours before we move. We march peacefully at 1 p.m. to our second location, where we will be listening to speakers, very esteemed speakers who are going to share in no uncertain terms the stakes of this moment and the legal authority to do what must be done. So that is January 4th. On January 5th, we're going to give you time to go to church in the morning. A lot of us are people of faith, and we want to respect that time that you need in the morning. So we're going to join at the same place at the Supreme Court, in front of the Supreme Court, 1 First Street Northeast at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for a continued peaceful demonstration, standing in solidarity for our democracy, not being willing to let it die on our watch on Sunday, January 5th. The day before certification, the day before these lawmakers make that vital choice as to where their names in history are going to be. So join us there on all those 3 days, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Details at the Plan Your Trip page at nowmarch.org. Once again, if you're just joining us, I'm watching the numbers in the live. If you're just joining us, please, number one, as I've said, if you can get yourselves there, that's what we need and what we want most, more than anything, is you to get yourself there to be a peaceful demonstrator and put down your mark in history. But if you can't, you can support this movement by donating. There is a donate link on the nowmarch.org page. Please, if you can, we have significant expenses. No special resources, no big piggy bank backing this effort, just concerned citizens. So we really need your support. And as I mentioned before, I'll say it one more time. If you have special services that you can donate, particularly event production services that you would like to donate in the Washington, D.C. area, we would be very happy and receptive to that. You can make a small donation through DonorBox and just indicate in a note to us. DonorBox is where the link is going to take you. Just indicate in a note that you have those services and we'll reach back out to you there. So thank you, everybody, so much. I want to share, I'm going to hop off this live pretty soon because I've got reporters calling me and a million emails and phone calls to respond to. All of us, by the way, have just been literally on this 24/7 through the holidays. This has been our holiday. One of the Lights On viewers who generously reached out to me a few weeks ago said, Jessica, I will be looking for your instructions over Christmas and gathering together and listening to what you tell us to do. And I had no idea, this was like a month ago, that I would be involved in something like this at this point. But she wished me a Merry Christmas and gave me a generous donation. And I thanked her so much. And I told her, this is like a month ago, I said, I was talking to my mom and we were talking about Christmas and we were saying, you know, this fight is Christmas. Like this is the gift that we are giving to ourselves and to the world to fight for this democracy. What a greater celebration of the Christ, the true spirit of the Christ in Christmas could there be than doing something like this. So this has been my holiday. It's been the holiday of, I think, most of the people on my team. We have been on this around the clock 24/7. So I'm going to share one comment from last week's announcement show that stood out to me, and I will share with reporters if this question comes up at all. And it's somebody who wrote to their lawmaker asking them to stand by Trump's disqualification in their oath. They wrote, this is Craig Brown. He said, I had written about the 14th Amendment to both of the Colorado senators and my district's representative. I received form letters in return. My representative sent a second letter in which he stated that Trump and Vance had won the election and that the peaceful transfer of power is a cornerstone of our democracy. This was my reply to that letter. I appreciate your letter. I know that you took an oath to defend the Constitution. The president-elect was adjudicated in the state of Colorado to be an insurrectionist. Although the U.S. Supreme Court ruled candidate Trump was not disqualified from being on the ballot, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution requires that the president-elect is disqualified from holding the office for which he was elected, unless a 2/3 vote in each House of Congress removes the disqualification. This is the law you took an oath to defend and protect. The Constitution is a cornerstone of our democracy. Imposing the disqualification demanded by the 14th Amendment is not in violation of the peaceful transfer of power. It is a protection and defense of the Constitution itself. If Congress fails us in supporting and defending the Constitution, then it's all just rhetoric with no meaning. So I thought that was very good, very excellent correction of the gaslighting of somehow this not being a peaceful transfer of power to object to the electoral votes of an adjudicated insurrectionist who is an insurrectionist because he has no respect for the peaceful transfer of power. So we will keep this narrative crystal clear. We will not be gaslit, and we will show up for our country and for the world on January 3rd to 5th in Washington, D.C. 14th now is how we are spending our new year, and we hope so much that you join us and spend it with us in Washington, D.C., all those warm, peaceful bodies gathered in one place to say, not on our watch, not on our watch. Uphold your oaths. We will stand peacefully for absolutely nothing less. I want to thank you all so much. It's the end of the year, and it has been an incredible year for all of us in spite of these abysmal future that we seem to be confronting. To see this movement come up and be unwilling and not step away, not be exhausted, but to realize that something is very, very wrong. And now is not the time to stand down. Now is the time to be more engaged than we ever have been. And in this critical moment, not when it's too late, not on January 20th at noon, but right now. I'm so grateful for all of the support for both me personally and just for our democracy, and to be in this fight with all of you. It is an incredible, incredible blessing. And so I'm going into the new year with immense gratitude for that. I do want to take a moment. I haven't covered it on the show in a few weeks just because I've been laser focused, as you know, on disqualification. But there's a genocide going on in Gaza right now. A lot of people have turned away from it. Jimmy Carter, for one, was very clear-eyed about what was going on in the Middle East years ago, way ahead of his time as he was on so many issues. And it's not okay that our government has backed this. And I hope that you take a few minutes to pay attention to what's going on around the world. It's literally the apocalypse in the Middle East right now. And this is not okay. So my heart and mind is with them, also with political prisoners around the world who are in captivity because people like Donald Trump and his puppet leader Vladimir Putin they're so weak that they can't stand dissent, and they have to imprison their political opponents. So I'm thinking about people like them right now, thinking about anyone suffering injustice around the world. And we're doing this thinking of them and thinking of all of the people who have made sacrifices up to and including their lives for our democracy over the years. One of our amazing organizers shared with me earlier, we were talking about how some of these other YouTube shows got these lawyers saying it'll never happen, it's magical thinking, da 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 da. And I shared with her how, this is how lawyers always talk. They always strategize and tell you what can and can't happen. And excuse my language, if I listened to lawyers 7 years ago, I would have never had that massively successful lawsuit against Donald Trump. But she made a comment to me somewhere to the effect of, if all the people fighting in civil rights to end segregation had listened to what lawyers told them were possible, they would have never achieved it. If anyone fighting and struggling for anything worth anything, for justice that so many have said, oh, it's just too hard, it's too impractical, it's magical thinking, it's not going to happen. If they had listened to them, imagine the darkness that we would be in right now. So let's not allow that darkness to come back into our life. Let's stand in the light and show up with me on January 3rd to 5th in Washington, D.C. If you want to support me individually, the way to do that, as you know, is at thejessicadenson.com/donate. I've got some merch. You can buy that too. Those links are down in the description. Most importantly, please, please, please just join us January 3rd to 5th. Go to nowmarch.org. I love you so much. Have a very happy, peaceful, healthy New Year's Eve and ringing in of the new year. And I hope to see you in just a few days in Washington, D.C.